Chosen one, stop scrolling. God didn't whisper this. He waited for you to be ready. Because what you're about to hear are not suggestions. They are final instructions. And they matter more than you realize. The moment you felt the shift, there was a day when something inside you changed without warning. The world looked the same, but you didn't. Old desires stopped feeding your soul, and silence started speaking louder than noise. That wasn't confusion, that was activation. That was God moving you from survival into assignment. Why you were never meant to fit in. You tried to blend in, and it drained you. You followed the crowd, and your spirit felt heavy. That's because chosen ones aren't built for comfort, they're built for calling. Your difference is not rebellion, it's design. God separated you long before you understood why. The weight you've been carrying. You felt tired in ways sleep couldn't fix. Emotionally stretched, spiritually pressured. That weight wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Heavy oil can only sit on strong shoulders. And heaven trusted you with it. The first final instruction, let go. God says release what no longer aligns, even if it once felt safe. Some doors stayed open too long because you were afraid of the silence after closing them. But delayed obedience creates spiritual noise. Letting go is not loss, it's obedience. And obedience unlocks the next level. Why people started resisting you. Notice how your growth made others uncomfortable. How your presence started triggering what they refused to heal. Chosen ones don't argue, they expose, without saying a word. That's why they try to silence you. Light doesn't need permission to reveal darkness. The second final instruction, stand still. Not everything requires a reaction. God says stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. Stillness is not weakness, it's authority under control. When you don't move in panic, heaven moves in power. Let God defend what He appointed. The signs you missed were never misses. The delay saved you. The rejection redirected you. The isolation refined you. Every closed door was God saying, not this way. You weren't late, you were being aligned. Why you feel called but unseen. Chosen ones are often hidden before they're revealed. David was anointed in private before he was crowned in public. Visibility without maturity destroys purpose. God hides you to build you. What's coming requires depth, not applause. The third final instruction, speak when called. Your voice carries weight now. Silence protected you, but obedience will promote you. Don't speak from wounds, speak from wisdom. When God opens your mouth, chains break for others. Your testimony is someone else's confirmation. The battle you're in is not natural. That resistance you feel isn't random. Spiritual pressure increases right before elevation. The enemy only fights what threatens him. Your obedience disrupts systems you were born to outgrow. Stay focused, stay clean, stay aligned. The final instruction, trust the process. God says stop measuring progress by speed. Seeds grow underground before they ever break the surface. What looks slow is actually deep. Trust builds when control ends. And surrender is the key you've been avoiding. This is your confirmation. If this message stirred something in you, it's because you were meant to hear it. You're not crazy, you're not behind, you're not forgotten. You are chosen, instructed, and protected. The instructions are clear because the season is serious. And heaven is watching how you respond. If this spoke to your spirit, tap like so this message reaches another chosen one. Comment I receive if you're ready to follow the instructions without fear, and tell me which instruction hit you the hardest. Subscribe to Chosen Wave and stay close. This awakening is only the beginning. When God goes quiet, there will be moments when prayers feel unanswered, when the signs slow down, when silence replaces reassurance. That silence is not absence, it is instruction in disguise. God goes quiet when He wants you to listen deeper. The season of uncomfortable truth. Chosen ones are forced to face themselves early. Your shadows were revealed before your crown was ready. That's why healing felt brutal and lonely. Truth hurts before it frees. And freedom is expensive for those called higher. Why you stay the same? You try to go back to old versions of yourself. Old habits, old friends, old thinking. But your spirit rejected it every time. Once God upgrades your awareness, ignorance becomes painful. Growth makes comfort impossible. The burden of seeing too much. You notice patterns others ignore. Energy shifts before words change. Intentions before actions. This discernment wasn't given to judge, it was given to protect. Seeing clearly is part of your assignment. When love started costing you, you loved deeply and it wounded you. You gave loyalty where it wasn't returned. But chosen ones learn love through loss. God uses heartbreak to detach you from dependence. So your love becomes powerful, not desperate. The war against your mind. Doubt didn't come from nowhere. Confusion wasn't random. The mind is the first battlefield for chosen ones. If they can't stop your calling, they'll try to exhaust your thoughts. Guard your mind like it's sacred, because it is. Why you felt called to be alone. Isolation was not punishment. It was training. Noise would have corrupted your clarity. Crowds would have diluted your discernment. Solitude sharpened your spirit. The shift from asking to trusting. At first you asked God for signs. Now you move even without them. That's maturity. Faith evolves when confirmation becomes unnecessary. You don't need proof when you carry knowing. When your old self tries to return, triggers resurface when elevation approaches. Old fears knock when doors begin to open. This is the final test of identity. Will you respond as who you were or who you've become? Growth is choosing differently under pressure. Why discipline matters now. What you consume affects what you carry. Words, music, conversations, thoughts. Chosen ones must protect their frequency. Not everything is evil, but not everything is aligned. Discernment decides destiny. The weight of responsibility. You feel responsible for more than just yourself. For family, for generations, for souls you haven't met yet. That's because your calling is bigger than your comfort. Legacy always feels heavy before it feels rewarding. You were built to carry it. When doors open without effort, you'll notice alignment replacing struggle. Opportunities finding you instead of chasing them. That's divine synchronization. When instructions are followed, resistance dissolves. Grace begins to speak for you. The moment you stopped proving yourself, you no longer need validation. Silence speaks louder than explanation. Peace replaced urgency. That's when authority entered the room. Confidence rooted in God cannot be shaken. Why this season feels serious. Laughing less, praying more. Choosing depth over distraction. This isn't heaviness, it's focus. God tightens discipline before expansion. Because what's coming requires precision. The test of patience. Waiting stretches faith more than movement. Delayed outcomes refine trust. Patience is not passive, it's controlled faith. Chosen ones don't rush timing. They honor it. When you realized you can't be saved by people. Support faded when you needed it most. Not because they were evil, Because they were human. God removed crutches so you could walk straight. Dependence shifts when divine trust activates. God wanted exclusivity in your reliance. The final stages feel strain. You feel close to something but can't name it. Excited but calm. Alert but peaceful. That's alignment before manifestation. The calm before divine movement. When fear loses its voice. Things that once scared you no longer control you. The opinions, the outcomes, the unknown. Fear still knocks, but it doesn't enter. That's authority taking root. Courage becomes quiet when it's real. The shedding you announce. You outgrew people without explaining it. You changed patterns without making noise. Chosen ones evolve silently. Announcements attract resistance. Growth prefers privacy. Why your prayers changed. You stopped begging and started aligning. Less asking for things, more asking for clarity. That shift matters. God responds faster to surrendered prayers. Alignment accelerates answers. When you started seeing time differently. Rushing feels wrong now. You sense timing instead of chasing it. Chosen ones move with divine rhythm. When time obeys purpose, nothing feels late. Everything arrives prepared. The burden of being misunderstood. You've been labeled cold, distant, or different. They couldn't read your depth. Chosen ones are often misjudged in shallow spaces. Misunderstanding is the tax for depth. Pay it without resentment. Why you no longer chase attention. Being seen lost its appeal. Being aligned became everything. Applause is loud but empty. Purpose is quiet but fulfilling. You chose substance over noise. The war between calling and comfort. Comfort begs you to stay small. Calling demands growth. This tension is holy. Every chosen one stands here eventually. Your discomfort is proof of expansion. When God tests your obedience in small things, it's not always big sacrifices. Sometimes it's what you ignore, what you tolerate. Small obedience unlocks major doors. He watches details before destinies. The shift from reaction to response. You no longer react emotionally. You respond intentionally. That's mastery. Power is calm. Wisdom pauses before moving. Why your dreams feel different now. Your dreams carry messages. Warnings, instructions, confirmations. Chosen ones are spoken to beyond language. Pay attention to what repeats. Repetition is divine emphasis. The separation that hurt but saved you. Some endings felt cruel. Some exits felt unfair. But distance revealed truth. God removes what your emotions protect. Protection doesn't always feel kind. When your intuition became an unnegotiable, you no longer override inner warnings. You trust the check in your spirit. Disobedience costs more than discipline. Chosen ones learn this early. Intuition is divine guidance, not paranoia. Why this path feels lonely. Few can walk where clarity lives. Most prefer comfort over truth. Loneliness refines leadership. Crowds follow later. First comes solitude. The invitation to go deeper. Surface-level faith no longer satisfies. You crave understanding, not slogans. Depth calls to depth. This hunger is holy. God feeds those who seek more. When peace replaces excitement, you're not chasing highs anymore. Stability feels better than chaos. Peace is the sign you're aligned. Excitement fades. Peace remains. Why you're being watched without knowing. Your consistency is noticed. Your silence is observed. Your discipline is recorded. Favor doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself suddenly. The quiet confidence you can't explain. You just know things will work out. Not because it's easy, but because you're aligned. Faith matures into certainty. And certainty doesn't panic. Chosen one, if this message shook something awake inside you, don't ignore it. This is your moment to choose alignment over comfort. Like this video, so the signal reaches other chosen ones who are still questioning themselves. Comment I receive if you're ready to follow God's instructions without fear, and tell me, which instruction are you committing to starting today? Subscribe to Chosen Wave right now, because this awakening isn't random, and you weren't meant to walk it alone.